Here's a sure sign that summer is here. The July issue of Down East magazine is now out with a formidable-looking moose staring back at you on the cover. Editor-in-Chief Will Grunwald is here with us on 207 to talk about some of the articles in this issue. Let's begin with a nice piece on Maine farms, Will, the agricultural scene, which of course has always had its ups and downs. And this article takes a look at how Maine farmers are kind of struggling right now, right?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, after a solid decade of boom in farming in the early part of the century, there's been about a decade now of steady decline in number of farmers in Maine and amount of farmland under cultivation in Maine. And we wanted to look at sort of what was behind those numbers and get a feel for whether it's cause for concern or alarm, right?
I like the point that the article makes is that we look around and we see farmers markets in so many communities in Maine, and we think, oh, okay, local farmers are doing all right, but that's a little bit misleading.
Yeah, it's a nuanced picture, right? Certain segments of agriculture, they're not all the same, right? And some are hurting more than others, some are doing just fine. I mean, farm markets are an interesting metric because there was a point in the 70s where the state had just one. So we're doing all right in a broader historical
when
perspective.
When I came across that statistic in the article, my eyebrows went whoop because I couldn't believe it. One farmer's market in Maine back in the 1970s. So good piece. Let's move on to a gallery of photos you have from a photographer named Jeff Dworsky. And this is an interesting background to it. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So Jeff was not a professional photographer. He was in the 70s as like a teenager, kind of a Rolling Stone type, and he eventually found his way to Stonington, and along the way always had a camera with him and sort of saw the world through it. That's how he documented his day-to-day, and started to accumulate some photos and that he would just stash away some slides. And he in the 70s, 80s started to sense Stonington changing a little bit, an influx of new people, new money, new technology, and felt like he should really make a point of preserving sort of a visual record of what it was like in those days.
The pictures are compelling, and they're a time machine. They will instantly transport you back to a different time and a different place.
Yeah, very much.
Well, let's end with a lengthy piece on Maine's moose population. Obviously, this is one of the iconic symbols of Maine, and the moose population is in trouble, and the people who are studying it are interesting because they're kind of pioneers in moose biology, aren't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the story, it's about what afflicts moose these days, which is winter ticks primarily. They've been a huge problem, especially in certain parts of the state, and they essentially bleed moose dry over time. But the story also looks at this fellow Lee Cantor, who is the state moose biologist. And we're the only state to employ just a full-time, fully dedicated moose biologist, which is, I think, kind of telling about how much we value that species.
A distinctly Maine thing there.
Yeah, and so Lee is really trying to make the management of the moose population a scientific study. And moose tend to inflame passions, right? Whether you're a hunter and want to hunt more moose, or you're a conservationist and don't want to see any moose harmed, he's trying to sort of balance those two interests while also using controlled hunts to possibly manage the tick population at the same time. And he's doing a lot of interesting work.
A lot of different factors that are at play there. All right, we got to leave it there. Will Grunwald, as always, a pleasure. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Those articles and more, all in the July issue of Down East, on sale now. Stick around. We're going to be back with more of 207 in just a moment.